I'd like to welcome everybody to the Humanode Fireside,
Hmm.
and the theme of the day is Road to Mainnet. So, Victor, starting from, oh, of course, a year ago when
Uh-huh.
we just, came out with the first white paper and started a project. A year later, here we are with testnet going, um,
Right.
investments coming in, and um, getting ready to release a desktop app to jump ahead next year in June, Mainnet, and then jump ahead, what, 5 years for 100,000 nodes? What is in between?
Yeah. So you mean what awaits us before the main net, right?
Yep.
To answer this question properly, Shannon, I think we first have to understand what are we trying to fulfill. Like different fronts and um, what we're trying to do. So I suggest we
Okay.
formulate, uh, the necessary parts for launching a mainnet, and I guess delve into them a bit deeper if somebody requests doing so.
Okay. So, um, I want to start off with what the parts are.
So basically, the first and foremost is building the blockchain. Um, so we have the chain up and running, and uh, I guess the most interesting part about that is that it's going to be working with uh, proofs of human existence and not like proof of work or proof of stake. Um, then we have the consensus layer. We claim to be consensus agnostic, meaning that our initial understanding is to have a special module that allows you to switch between various consensuses or running various consensuses simultaneously because we as you might very well know, we're planning to have a very vast amount of validators, and it requires special uh, technical basis to do so because not all consensuses allow you to have that much nodes running at the same time, and not failing to uh, deliver all the information in the network and various other limitations to just implement a consensus right away. Um, of course, we have the passive active noise detection part, but here we have like face tech with us and the DAO Vortex actually plan to release a bit after the mainnet itself, but
Mhm.
it also a very important and integral part of everything that we're trying to build here. So I think I named it. Oh no. So sorry. And of course, from the privacy perspective, we have the hardware-based privacy in a like special environment. We call it the trusted enclave that delivers private computation for all the data that goes through the network. So basically, so that everyone is sure that we're not messing around with their biometrics. I think I named them all, Shannon. No? Oh.
Okay. So right now we're basically testing the blockchain, correct? And of course, we're of
The
course testing out the
biometric authorization.
biometrics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next step actually we have two steps on the development roadmap next. Uh, that will go in parallel. will focus mostly on building the Ethereum virtual machine. Likely, it will not be from scratch because there are already a few implementations in Rust existing, and it is all based on Sputnik VM, which was well taken and upgraded by Moonbeam and Parity team a lot, and already is in production. So you know that different companies do have different angles of how they want to build the EVM and what tools they want to connect. Uh, well, this is what we'll have to adapt to as well. But apart from building the EVM, once our EVM testnet is ready, we will be of course connecting uh, the easiest way possible the biometric part to it, so people could start playing with it. So it's really right now in development team in terms of research, focus on building the EVM because the EVM itself will later influence a lot on how the consensus works. Not, I mean, in the way of how the mechanism works itself, but the implementation.
Hmm. See, so of course, hand in hand, I'm supposing security is something that is moving forward.
Hmm.
Um, how you know how should I say? But what steps are being taken now, and what steps are going to be taken in let's say, the next 6 months or so?
Oh, well, depends on what type of security you're talking about. Well, the more secure we are, the more nodes we have, right? And for that reason, we'll be running testnet for a longer time, though without a lot of changes,
Mm-hmm.
to have a lot of people ready to become humanoids right away on the mainnet. The other part of the security is like, as I said, apart from EVM, for the next few months, the goal is to put the biometric algorithms into private enclaves. Likely, we already done our research. It was a pretty hard one because nobody before us put the best biometrics, so face stack, into private enclave. I think this would really have even some applications in non-blockchain space, but we're making mostly for our company the privacy here. But really, people could build the whole company on just wrapping the face stack into the private enclave and making it work.
Well, I remember, for the last 2 months ago,
Mm.
Mosquitoes were banging their heads against the wall, trying to figure out how to get the enclaves to work.
Yes, yes, and we're finally more or less there. It's really hard to make it all compatible. You see.
So, on the biometrics front, uh, I know that we are working, and of course, there's the original hardware solution, and then there's our main solution that we're working for to be implemented down
Hmm.
the road. Is that going hand in hand, or will it be something that we'll be focusing on once mainnet launches?
Well, as you know, we're always focusing on that internally. Not speaking about that a lot because it's a really long process. So we're still in the Python implementation process, right? We're already testing it on a pretty big data set, but we need more data sets to do that. So I would say that this is something not required for our mainnet launch. But as you know, our engineers are always working on that side as well because the cryptographic security of biometrics is something that we want to reach one day. I would say that we'll be showing off some demos once even the Python implementation is done. And we'll have a lot of peer reviews in terms of how our cryptography is structured. Because, cryptographic code, there's not a lot of code concerning the cryptography, but it should be really good, audited. And, our final goal is to make cryptographic biometric algorithm that has almost the same security as, the centralized solution that exists today.
If not better.
Yeah, achieving this goal is on our 4-year roadmap, not on our road to Mainnet. Though we will never stop the process to be the first ones in the industry.
So, looking at the current roadmap to Mainnet, which is has a short to mid-term, since you're only looking at 7 months or so.
Oh yeah.
What are the biggest roadblocks in the way, aside from HR? Before you answer that, yes, just for those of you who are listening to this, if you are a Rust developer, please contact us. We are looking for you.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we'll have some, changes on that side as well. So, and especially we'll be in a better situation when the market turns into the bear market. But it's not there yet, and we'll do the best thing possible. Luckily, even engineers who worked on Polkadot pirate chains that are now already coming out on Kusama, well, they are coming to us once their company already on the mainnet, and they want to join us. So that's a good thing that we can attract experienced developers. So back to your question, Shan. The main blockers, I'd say, well, it's still. I'd say that some companies already launch in a situation that we have right now, when they just have the test net and they can already launch a token and do the things like that. That's not what we're going to do. So we want, to have the whole ecosystem prepared before our mainnet launch. So I'd say that the blocker would be, the organizational one, in order to get the pieces together as the united infrastructure, not just, the scattered pieces of infrastructure. But that's what our lead developer Mozgi is thinking of from the beginning and working on. So we don't want just to have blockchain engine, right? But we already want some live use cases before mainnet launch. We're starting integrations this month. Then we want to have the first pieces of DAO live, right? To achieve, well, the first stages of decentralization right after the mainnet. And don't forget about the cost-based fee system.
Yes.
And in that terms, we're already talking to the cloud providers to get the direct data and finally create it, because, well, we know how. So it will be another pilot, both for EVM and substrate implementation. And it will be an absolutely new thing that hopefully other networks one day will be able to use, if they're not to proof of stake, if they're at least a combination.
Dato.
Yeah.
From your perspective, are there any other roadblocks? Or what are the challenges you think we'll be facing?
As you might understand, there's like a lot of different parts the system is made of, right? And there's a lot of basically stuff going on with your biometric data to match you several times and use different models to do so. So a lot of been blockers I see is actually testing out the security of the whole system and understanding how can we make it better so that no one lays their hands on biometric templates of the users.
Mm-hmm. So I'm of course, I remember we were talking about getting people interested in trying to trick the system. Have we had any successful contenders so far?
No.
None. I mean, if we had, that would be a one lucky guy or girl with 100, you know.
I know it's one of those things where I say, thank God, nobody's made it, but damn, somebody's missing out on 100K. So
That's true.
so Dato, you're talking about going a little into some of the individual parts.
Yeah, and I mean, I can see that Dmitry is with us here today, and first off, talking about the blockchain itself and what we're aiming and striving for to build to the mainnet. I think Dmitry can share his vision about this. Dmitry?
Are you asking about the whole mainnet or
Just
the closest goals?
I'd say
terms of-
the goals in terms of building up the blockchain part, right until the mainnet, right? We're not the closest goals, okay? We launched the testnet, and now we have a lot of small things to fix. But what comes next for in terms of your development of protocol, Dmitry?
So I would say is that first of all, as we're going to be as open source, we had different tasks from TechDev, and we're really working on it to provide for users a great code that can be reviewed anyone, and we do any improvements, your suggestions, so we will do. And in terms of getting our goals about mainnet, we are doing different parts in terms of consensus, combination of biometrics and different consensus layer. We are still in considering different approach, but we've made a good progress for now. Also, one of the additional item, as it was mentioned before, we are planning to implement a virtual machine, but it's in terms of pilot, it's a general substrate approach. So I guess it's the main goals for now to be launched in mainnet.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess for now that's all.
Hey, Shannon.
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if you have any questions to us so far.
Oh, I'm always full of questions, but one thing that I was hoping you could share a little bit about, because we really haven't talked about it on the Fireside that much, is a little bit about the cost-based fee system. And if you could enlighten us all of how you envision it.
Okay, it can be a long talk, but the base is pretty simple.
We have time. We have
Yeah,
time.
the basis of it is pretty simple. What we're striving to do is to make fees more stable. Uh, how we actually are going to implement, the Ethereum has gas, other EVM compatible networks have gas. What we want to do is, instead of gas as some internal market currency for paying for transactions and finding out how much shall you pay for that, we will be implementing a cost based fee system, meaning that actually, like, you don't have a new currency inside, but you have the USD, as the internal currency of the fee market, which you cannot influence. So in Ethereum, if you have a huge influx of transactions in the network, you will eventually see that the transaction fees grow up, and this is true for any network out there. What we're going to do is to say, well, our network is capable of that amount of transactions, and unless this number is more than the number of transactions and computations happening on the network we have now, basically people will pay the only the costs of computing that transaction, and that can be anything from smart contract to biometric checks, and they will pay for eternal storage of that transaction, because in blockchain all the data is kept eternally.
Yes.
Yeah, and what it implies for example, the validators, some people may think, does that mean that validators get nothing because they're paying the costs and they are getting only like the cost-based fee? Well, that's not true, because there is a difference in how much validators should pay for storing the transaction at the moment, and between the upfront payment of the person who sends the transaction of the eternal fee. So we basically get a formula that predicts how much the storage will cost in the future, and based on that formula, that may change but really rarely, actually Airweave takes the same approach, and it's already functionable and working, but they don't use it for the network of transactions. They use it only for storage, and well, as I said, the difference between what the person pays the commission fee and what the validator gets lies in the eternal storage that the person should pay for. Then, talking about how it will be implemented, well, basically we take the data directly from the provider of cloud service, either centralized or decentralized. We're actually talking to at least 5 of them, to get data about how much the validators are spending. And as all validators are equal in our network, we know that pretty much they will have the same costs. We get that data on chain through API in terms of billing, and in terms of, well, what was the real computation done by the node at that moment. We send it on chain, and basically that data becomes the fee that the person has to pay. He will pay it still in Humanode tokens. Humanode token will be volatile, but if you look at the dollar value of what you have to pay, it will be really stable over time, so that companies who want to pay for their users, for example, right, who want to integrate blockchain, and they, for example, take the fee from the user for subscription, not for each action of the user, well, it will be possible for them to predict how much they will spend depending on their user base and the complexity of their on-chain contracts or data. And yeah, people won't be getting up every day seeing that, oh my God, I need to spend 2 times much money today than yesterday.
Which is always good. Looking at how gas prices tend to fluctuate.
Just some questions. Really, I haven't thought about it, but it's really a good case. And maybe my question for Victor or Dato. So at current moment, if company would like to predict any users' behavior process, it can't do with current currencies, really, because they have a lot
Yeah,
of
they have an
volatility,
internal
right?
market for all of them.
Oh, cool.
So they can predict it before the moment you pay the transaction, but due to the fact that the prices and the usage of public blockchains are so volatile, you can never predict how much you'll have to pay in a week.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
So yeah, basically nobody did that. We'll see how that goes. Really, we hope that it will get adoption not only on our network, but there will be other companies building with us, and yeah, it will be built at a substrate palette.
Okay, we're at about the halfway mark right now. If anybody here has any questions concerning the road to mainnet or anything that we've talked about here, please speak up or type out in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. And I know you're very shy, but don't be so, and feel free to speak up. And of course, I see 50,000 hands raised, but not really. So, Victor, what is a challenge in implementing a cost-based fee system?
Okay. Well, actually, there are a lot of challenges in that. The first thing is that to make it really decentralized, we have to either use the provider of those servers and storage that already put their data on chain, and there are two companies that were going to do that, and one of them is TechOS. I hope it will be implemented soon, and well, if it is implemented, we can just look at on-chain data that we need, take it and say, well, that's how we derive, that's what we derive transaction fee from. But if we are going to go with the centralized providers, we would need to get the price data of the biggest centralized providers, because they usually have prices higher than normal but very stable. And actually, we know that people who launch the nodes usually use two of the top three providers of servers. And we will have to probably do that in API 3 style, who deal with oracles. What they do to ensure that this, well, data that they get through the oracles on chain is valid is that they have nodes signing and time-stamping all the data sent from the centralized server provider to their oracles. So that means that you have to directly work with AWS or Azure or somebody else, so that they would put the node on their side, sign transactions, and send it on chain. The third option that we have, we already researched it, and well, it's doable, is when you have a special service, I mean, like software service for API data. Sorry, I can't remember the name, but basically they take data from the AWS, Azure, and others. They unfortunately, in a centralized fashion, like certify that the data is correct, but they can eventually put it on chain. So, of course, the first option that I described here, the decentralized one, is pretty good when we have a decentralized network that can give us that data based on their costs of storage. But centralized networks, sometimes their economies are so efficient, I mean decentralized ones, that it costs you less to actually use their servers. Which means that if people, for example, launch a human node on AWS, and we take data from the decentralized platform, where prices are lower, well, the validator won't be earning or maybe even losing money on hosting it on AWS. So, I mean, mostly all of the problems we have are not in, whether we can do it or not. Yes, we can, but whether the other, you know, counterparties that we need to work with to make the system work will be able to do this or not.
Mhm. So, okay, next question here. Dimitri, it might be an awkward question, but of course, as a developer or, any profession, there are, in the process of getting something done, of course, uh, getting the task complete is always, a an enjoyable moment. But there's certain processes in the process that you enjoy more than the other. Or for example, uh, as a photographer, when I started out as a photographer, taking photos is always, a fun part,
Mhm.
but there's always, the preparation that goes into taking the photos, including, preparing for the trip and bringing all the right equipment and making sure they're all working. And then after you take the photo, there's a whole process of developing and then printing the photo and well, preparing the right chemicals to print the photo and so on and so forth. There are a lot of details in there. And there are certain processes that you enjoy more than others. For example, as a photographer, the process that I enjoyed the most was actually printing the photo because there's certain tricks that I had developed that I enjoyed. It would give the photograph more impact. And I actually felt almost a loss once a project was completed because it was finished, gone. You don't work on that anymore, so you have to look forward to the next one. But and the writer, as a writer, it's always, of course, part of the writing process or certain aspects of writing the article. As a developer here, working on the building the blockchain, building this project, what part of working on such a project is most enjoyable to you, and what is that part already finished, or do you have something that you're really looking forward to working on?
Oh, great question, Shannon. So, what I would like to say, maybe somebody remembers that I'm crazy about challenges. It's connected in any aspect in my life. Like if we consider, for example, photography language, what I mean. So photography can take photos of different families, different people with their different style. From in my mind, it's equal, for example, about developer who like working at outsource company. Yeah, they have different clients, they can have different problems, but as practice shows, in most cases, a lot of clients really have a similar approach, and you need to do like a similar solution. Sometimes it's really you don't need to spend a lot of time because your experience, your background allows you to provide really good solution for your clients. In my case, like I can say that I like work at Humanode. Why? Because it's a client where like it's one client, and you need to take photos at different places at work, where like to be here you need to face you can face a lot of challenges, so weather, difficult work, something like that. And in terms of development here, really I like faces different challenge anytime. It's really improve my skill, improve my vision. I'm thinking broader from different views. So I like this at Humanode, and maybe it's really something that I like because Humanode for developers really provide a lot of challenges, because Humanode has a great potential, and it's not like a simple startup where simple goals. No, it's something new dreams, new goals, unusual thinking. So that's why really you can face a lot of challenges. And by the way, it's very great people working here, a cool team where you can get help and really. So I believe, and that here we can overcome different obstacles and achieve our goals.
So, do you have any particular challenges that you see, let's say, before the launch of the mainnet, that you're looking, you have your work that you're, facing right now in development, but of course you can see the roadmap moving forward. Is there a particular portion that you think, that's going to be a challenge, or I'm looking forward to that challenge? Do you see any specific portion?
Yeah, maybe for now I can say about it. So from my experience, yeah, I mostly was connected on tasks that is connected with consensus, cryptography. Yes, usually there are not such a lot of programming, something like that. Even in case you have programming, you can do it. But in terms of like some user experience support, production support, and to do everything. So personally, for me, I face this a good challenge that I would like to be helpful in case something goes wrong, and we need to fix and to run different services, because Humanode, I believe, will have a lot of different use cases, and I think that it it will be helpful in case I can support in terms of support and production. So I'm talking about like now I have a good challenge to learn to research Kubernetes and to provide a good environment for all our use cases and for all our network.
Well,
So
hopefully your challenge will, uh, this challenge will be completed before the launch of mainnet, where we want to see all the problems flushed out. And once the mainnet
yeah,
launches, hopefully
absolutely.
there's no problems and you wouldn't have to help anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and what I can add is that maybe from point of view network consensus, we still have different research task, and so we are working on it as well all time, thinking about different improvements. And that's it, I guess.
Oh, So, Dato, we're down to about 17 more minutes. Are there any specific features or pieces of the roadmap that you'd like to put a highlight on?
I mean, I guess the amount of validators that we're aiming at is still an open question, right? But we're planning to onboard a batch of 10,000 validators after the mainnet, and I don't really know how long that is going to take, really. Of course, the validation rights will be given based on like proof of devotion, proof of time, and there's actually another system, as I will say, a subsystem that we have to formulate properly and implement. So, I mean, judging from day one, I guess, we will be, not we, but the decentralized system itself will have to determine how long have different, humanodes have devoted themselves to running a validator node.
Mm-hmm.
And if they take any like actions like participating in various projects in the ecosystem or governance, they will have like their devotion counted, and you're not being like admitted to validator set like instantly. You have to pass through several conditions to like determine that whether you're like whether you are aligned or not to become a validator. But what I want to strain is I want to strain the fact that basically there's no people deciding whether you can become a humanode or not, and there's like no people that decide whether you gain any ranks. Everything is really dependent on the system itself.
Mm-hmm. So, I guess that means for those of us who are participating in the test net, continue participating in the test net so you can become a validator from the get-go, I guess, or you can aim to be a validator from the get-go.
Yes, but the testnet that we've been running up to this point is going to change drastically by the end of this month in terms of numbers and different technologies implemented. Some would say that those are two different implementations of the same thing, but really we're not changing the name of this testnet for that. So yeah, I'm inviting everyone to kind of be patient about it and look forward to the release of our desktop application soon enough.
Are there any points that you'd like to highlight about the desktop application?
Well, the main point is that you don't have to be like tech savvy to launch an app. Not anymore, at least. Well, you gotta be tech savvy enough to know how a desktop works on a computer, and to press a mouse, and maybe some Control-C, Control-V action there. That's it.
That's a tall order. Okay, so we're down to a little over 10 minutes. I'd like to open the floor to any questions related to today's topic or not in general. Feel free to speak. If not, I might be pointing out to some people, calling their names, asking them to speak up. Let's see. Paul, are you there? Do you have any questions?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So as we see DeFi from its inception, projects have been following Coinbase governance, right? But recently, there have been many problems in that system where a certain group of people, they are holding long token holdings, and they are basically biased. So the decision making in that DAOs is being biased. So as human node is proposing this new idea where we are proposing identity based or your biometric based, where one person will be only one vote. So how do you see these existing DAOs partnering with human node, or human node going as a going there as a DAO as a service? And what would be the challenges that human node will be facing converting those DAOs from coin-based governance to using the biometric scheme? So how do you plan to proceed on that front?
Great question there.
Okay. Yeah,
Victor,
I
go
think I
ahead.
have an answer for that. So, it's really hard to build to rebuild the DAO that has been based on the capital and just move it to one person, one vote system. Pretty much impossible, I would say. The one option to do that, which has less consequences, is that you at least have uh, each validator going through the like biometric processing, so that you won't have mm, shady people who are like setting up a lot of nodes and making everybody think that they are not playing with the system. But more or less problems that uh, you can see now in the protocols are because of the fact that they just left a big portion of their tokens to big VC players, and eventually those got power, and they will still have it until they sell their tokens. And well, this is the truth that we cannot change because the protocols are already bootstrapped. And I would say that we target those who have still time to change their mind before launching their protocol. And yeah, that's why we're integrating into different DAO frameworks, um, not building our own, but working with a few of them hand by hand in order to integrate biometrics there. But unfortunately, I would say that we can change those protocols that already have coin-based voting. What they can do is just, um, to set up one person, one vote DAOs that are not taking final decisions, but are either indicating, pointing at the fact that, hey, the real community disagrees with that. And, you know, then after that kind of community voting, it can influence the decision of the holders of the token, like big VCs. So, because this will be on chain voting, or probably even of like small token holders who can both prove that they're unique human being and they have the tokens of that protocol, and they can sign a petition to go to that VC, say that we disagree with what you're doing. This is another option, but yeah, as I said, uh, let's not rebuild those who are hard to rebuild, and build together with the new DAOs to make them work right.
Cool, understood. And tail question to that. So, if we look at new projects who are willing to use the biometric service, so will there be an SDK like service where anyone can easily integrate the biometric DAO in their project? Uh, are there any development in that sense?
Yeah, sure. So as I said, that's why we're partnering up with DAO frameworks. So that's basically, um, for example, take Ericon. What they have is that they have the set of smart contracts um, that pretty much looks as an like operating system to build your own DAO, because you just take this application, for example, uh, the bookkeeping application, the voting application. Then you have treasury management application, and you also have like Humanode application inside of it. And with that kind of DAO constructor, how they are now structured, we will become part of them. it will not be an SDK because the biometrics shall run on Humanode servers, which will be run by the network or particular DAO members. But the thing is that we want to give freedom to Ethereum developers to play with it, just by creating, a small smart contract that will be able to tell you, looking back at Humanode network, whether the person with this account checked with the Humanode network and proven that he's a unique human being. And from that point, we think that it will be integrated, sometimes even directly, into projects.
Thanks.
So,
That answers the
yeah,
question.
it will be API like, but eventually it will require the bridge, between the Ethereum network and our network, and the smart contract of the developer of the DAO or whatever will be able to talk to our biometric smart contract.
Okay, understood.
Hey, thank you very much for those questions. Glad you're here today with us.
Yeah.
So I think we have time for one or two more questions. Does anybody else want to ask questions? Perhaps Nick?
Sure. I want to understand how Humanode is helping in terms of so one is biometric. The data
Mm-hmm.
is being stored in the DAOs, or will that be device specific? Second is since like there is this concept which I really liked. Will this replace the existing KYC, or will it work parallelly?
Okay, let me first answer your second question. Uh, for the KYC side, what we're building here, is not how will be used in the future, but we're trying to create an identity, a biometric one, but at the same private and pseudonymous. So basically, when you will be interacting with any protocol, but proving your identity with Humanode, they will have no information about you, but only the proofs. So that's the thing that we're building. Eventually, many other identity protocols want to be integrated with us because identity is not only about the control of your assets; it's also about the information about you. So, like who you are, maybe a street number, maybe something else. And biometrics will be sometimes part of the applications that require KYC, but that only depends on application builder. So in the standard scenario, you don't need to go through KYC at all. You have a pseudonymous wallet, I mean, or pseudonymous biometric account, which you can connect to other wallets, and that's it. And again, Nick, could you please remind me about the first question?
Sure. So I understood your second part. Thanks for that. My
Uh-huh.
first question was around security concerns. Say, for instance, if there's a lot of hack which happens, right? And
Yeah.
my biometric data is with a DAO, then there's a quite possibility that they might, sort of get infiltrated, or
Mhm.
uh, something might happen. What Apple or any other smartphone companies are doing is they store the data within my device, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't sort of share this information anyways. So how will this work with Humanode?
So again, we have two versions. Let me tell you about the first one. In the first version, your data leaves your device, like in the second one, only in encrypted form. Okay, but in the first version, the data goes into the private enclave, which is based on Intel SGX technology. And that means that nobody, even the person who launched the server, cannot see the data inside of it. And that's how the biometric data would be like processed first in those servers. We still, have to put privacy under the risks that Intel will be hacked and their system will be hacked. But at least we know this is, one of the best companies in the world, and we can also have enclaves in AMD hardware. But later, we will not only encrypt your data before leaving your device, like in version 1, but it will always, even during computation, will stay encrypted. And this is why we call ourselves like the first cryptobiometric company, because for half a year already, we're building the biometric system which ensures privacy by cryptographic methods, and it doesn't matter whether the data goes, you will be able to do nothing with it. As a hacker, I mean.
Got it. Thanks, Victor.
Now,
Oh,
you should know that really this privacy about biometric concern takes 50 or more than 50% of time of the whole development team.
And we do
Okay.
have a lot of people on it.
Yeah.
So I'd like to thank you all for joining us for this episode of the Fireside, and we'll be meeting again in 2 weeks' time. So thank you all for joining us today, and have a
In
good
2
day or
weeks
have a good
time,
evening.
get ready for the app release and for thousands of Humanodes. I think the next month will be pretty crazy because finally people will get what they want.
Mm-hmm. And actually, the next Fireside is going to be fairly local for us because currently, we have members in different countries, but the next Fireside I'll be in Georgia with Dato and Victor. So,
Oh, already cool.
yes. So, okay. So we'll see you next time. Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
For your time, Raj.
Thank you.
Thank you everybody for coming.